Some conversations don't stop when the other person stops talking. You leave the room, close the app, get back to your day, and the exchange keeps running in the background like an open tab you never meant to keep. That is the part that wears you down. You catch yourself rewriting your answers in the shower. On the commute, you rehearse the next round. Later, you remember a sentence you wish you had said and then spend 10 more minutes building the perfect version of it. It feels like problem solving, but it is usually just your mind trying to regain control after the fact. This shows up fast with the person who always needs to win. A simple disagreement becomes a contest. Every point gets treated like a score. And suddenly you are not just discussing something, you are defending your reality against someone who seems committed to making it difficult. The actual exchange may last 5 minutes. The mental version can last all night. It also shows up with the person who lies, deflects, or quietly avoids responsibility. They say they never got the document, or they blur the detail, or they slide away from the thing they clearly caused. And now your mind has to keep opening the file again. Did I miss something? Do I need proof? Should I prepare differently next time? The conversation ends, but the uncertainty doesn't. That is what makes these interactions so draining. Before they happen, you anticipate. During them, you tense up. After them, you analyze. The loop is not accidental. It is the mind trying to finish something that never really gave it a clean ending. And the strange part is that this can feel productive. You think if you just replay it one more time, you will find the missing line, the better boundary, the smarter response. But most of the time, you are not getting closer to relief. You are just keeping the person active in your attention. The exhaustion is not the 5-minute conversation, it is the hours of mental occupation that follow it. That is the hidden cost people feel before they can name it. Their mind is being partially hijacked by unresolved social moments. Not because they are weak, because some people do not just create friction in the room, they leave friction behind in your head. The reason these people stay active in your mind is not that they are uniquely important. It's that the interaction never feels finished. Your brain does not like loose ends, especially when the thing left hanging is tense, confusing, or unfair. That is where rumination comes in. In plain language, it means your mind keeps coming back to the same thought without actually moving anywhere. You replay the sentence, then the tone, then your reply, then the reply you wish you had given. It feels like work, but often it is just repetition wearing a convincing mask. That is part of why the loop is so sticky. The mind mistakes return for progress. If you keep turning the same moment over and over, it can feel as if you are processing it when you are really just revisiting it. You know this feeling from the conversation you rehearse in the shower, or the email draft you mentally rewrite 10 times before sending nothing at all. The effect gets stronger when the other person is dishonest, vague, or deflecting. Now your brain is not only reacting to what happened, but also trying to reconcile two versions of reality that do not match. They say one thing, their behavior says another, and your mind hates that mismatch. That discomfort is part of cognitive dissonance. The strain that shows up when what happened and what someone claims happened refuse to line up. So you start doing extra mental work. Did I misunderstand them? Did they forget? Are they lying? Should I gather proof next time? This is how the mind tries to stabilize a story that will not stabilize. The problem is that more thinking does not always produce more clarity. Sometimes it just produces more exhaustion. And attention is not endless. Kahneman's basic point still holds here. Your mind has a limited budget. Every minute spent replaying a difficult person is a minute borrowed from something deeper, like planning your week, learning something new, building a project, or just thinking straight. You may still be sitting at your desk, but part of your mind is off managing someone else's chaos. This is why these people take up so much mental real estate. Unfinished things stay mentally active longer than completed ones. That is the Zeigarnik effect in everyday life. A clear ending lets the mind move on. An unclear exchange does the opposite. The argument with the person who must win stays open because there was no real resolution. The encounter with the person who dodged responsibility stays open because the story never settled. And once your brain learns that these interactions stay alive, it starts treating them as important just because they keep returning, not because they are profound, because they are unresolved. That is the trap. The thinking they generate is usually repetitive and shallow, not creative or useful, but The repetition itself trains your brain to keep circling back. That is why trying harder often backfires. More preparation, more analysis, more perfect comebacks can accidentally strengthen the loop. You are not closing the case. You are teaching your mind to keep reopening it. The loop does not end when you find the perfect sentence. It does not end when you finally decode their motives either. Sometimes the mind keeps replaying because it has mistaken the conversation for an unfinished task, like a tab that refuses to close even though the page is already dead. That is where metacognition helps. It sounds technical, but it is really just noticing the shape of your own thinking. Instead of stepping into the content of the replay, you step back and name the mechanism. I am running this clip again. That small shift matters because the mind is much harder to trap when it is being observed instead of obeyed. You do not control whether difficult people exist. You do not control whether someone argues to win, lies to avoid responsibility, or says something irritating that lands in your chest and stays there for an hour. The first hit is often automatic. The irritation shows up before you have any opinion about it. What you do influence is what happens after that. You decide how much mental real estate gets assigned to the encounter. You decide whether your brain is taught that this person deserves hours of internal processing or only a few seconds of recognition. And you decide whether inconsistent behavior becomes a mystery to solve or simply a pattern to account for. That changes the goal completely. The argumentative person does not necessarily need a better argument from you. They may need lower expectations of productive exchange. If every discussion with them turns into a courtroom, the win is not the perfect comeback later in your head. The win is realizing that some people are not built for clean resolution, so you stop asking them to provide it. The unreliable person does not need to make psychological sense. They may simply need a different system. Document the exchange. Follow up in writing. Keep distance where distance is useful. Sometimes the most intelligent response to inconsistency is not deeper interpretation, but a cleaner structure around your own work and your own peace. This is why the loop weakens when you stop treating it like a puzzle that must be solved before you can move on. A lot of replay is just the brain trying to extract closure from a source that does not offer closure. If the other person is evasive, defensive, or chaotic, more analysis does not create resolution. It just gives the loop more time to breathe. So the exit is not emotional victory. It is withdrawal of significance. The interaction happened. The clip played. Now it does not get to keep renting space in your head after the room is empty. The conversation may still be 5 minutes long, but it no longer ends in two places.